we're going to continue with the budget meeting. And first up is Greg. Let you get going, Greg, please.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Under tab E, page 37, is the department summary. And of course, the department focus is to provide our community with professional fire emergency response. The accomplishments for the past year as council is where we did order a new fire truck and went through the specification process and signed the contract for that. I would mention that the chassis for that unit is in now. It's up in Breda, and I went up and inspected it the other day, and it looks very nice. And so we're moving forward with that. You'll be seeing the payment for that coming through here, I think, next Monday.
Sticker shock.
Yeah, it's pricey. In the budget this year, there's kind of one basic change, I guess. You know, the station was built in 2005 and is in need of.
Can you pull your mic to you a little bit?
Oh.
Okay. Yeah, the station was built in 2005 and it's in need of some repair, particularly the EFS around the apparatus bay area. That's where the garage doors are. Noticed really this spring a lot of cracking going on there. I had Mike out and took a look at it. I got some estimates to get everything repaired, and that EFS, they tell me, has gotten some water behind it and has caused some cracking on that. So we talked to Denison Drywall and got an estimate from them to repair that and waterproof it to keep water from getting behind there, and then repainting the whole station. It's in need of that, and some other, you know, caulking and things around the window. It's time to do some work on that. So the budget does include $23,200 for that. Okay. Moving on to the revenue side for the fire department, the funding we receive from the townships we serve that we contract with for fire protection. We have 5 surrounding townships that we have contracts with, and our expected income from that is $19,000. And then we do just have a little miscellaneous for fire reports of $50. Being new expenses, I don't know if you want to go back to tab F, page 82 is a detailed list of, let's see, yeah, that's a detailed listing there of our various line items that we have. You know, the personal services, that includes their stipend for the firefighters responding. 40% of my city salary is also budgeted in here. We are going to begin replacing one of the capital items that I put in, although it's not very much, is a replacement air pack. They're about $5,000. I've applied for grants for those for the past, well, I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years to get them replaced. Now we're starting to see some problems. So I'm going to start replacing those a few at a time. And last time we got them was a grant. It was nice to get the grant, but they all get old at the same time. We're starting to really see some problems. So I'm going to start replacing.
How many of those do you have total?
We have 20.
20.
Yeah. And they're about around $5,000 a piece. So I did apply for a timberman grant to get a few, and our department is also going to purchase a few with some dance money that we got. So we're kind of partnering again with the department on getting those replaced.
You have one for each fireman?
No, we don't. Every firefighter has a mask, and not everybody likes to wear them. It's kind of a different environment to have those on. So we have 20 and then 10.
Would you have that adequate, what you have right now?
It is, Mike. As a matter of fact, we've looked at maybe backing off on that number a little bit because we do have spare tanks and we have capability to fill them on scene. So we're looking at doing that. Maybe dropping that number to 16 rather than 20. So see how we go on with that. But anyway, our total asking for fiscal 2021 is $167,052. And with the revenue there, the actual cost is going to be around $148,000 to operate the fire department. So, if there's any other questions with that, I'd be glad to answer them. Okay, then we can move on to the building department, which is under tab E, page 39. Again, our department focus there is to provide the community with permitting and inspection procedures for code compliance with all components of the building trade industry. We will, of course, always work closely with our contractors in the area. And then our fiscal 2021 initiative is, again, at the planning session, we decided that we were gonna do a building code, rental code enforcement, and we're still in that process. This budget does include the hiring of a full-time person for that, and this budget also includes revenues of an additional 28,000, I believe, and Mike, you can pitch in here, but, so we're looking at going ahead and implementing rental inspection fees. The rest of the budget's pretty straightforward. Our revenues come from all of the various trades and the permits that we issue there. So we're projecting or requesting 85,000, looking at that for revenue. And expenses, personal services and commodity, is $251,318. And with our expected revenues, the operating budget should be around $166,318. But total expenses are for the building department at $251,318.
That code enforcement, that's not just rental housing inspection, code enforcement, correct?
Right, I think we're looking at with rental inspections and sidewalk, I think is something, and then Brad also is looking at about a third of the time for code enforcement, nuisance abatement, that kind of thing.
Help take a little bit off the
Yeah.
officers so they can focus on safety.
But I would anticipate the first year and a half will be pretty intense with setting up the program, you know, getting all of the rental fees collected and getting everybody registered. I can see where that's gonna take some time. And to get through the first round of inspections, I would anticipate taking, you know, quite a little time, so.
Absolutely.
And you know, we plan to spend kind of a third in doing those inspections, so it's gonna be, it's not gonna be year one where we do all the inspections. But there is gonna be a lot of setup time, so I mean, that's kind of what I've told staff, that we really wanna emphasize getting that rental housing and code enforcement kind of off the ground correctly. You know, we wanna execute that very well. But, I mean, as Greg noted, and I think it's one of the things I really want to highlight, is, you know, we have included in the fee structure, $28,000. You know, so we are proposing a budget that still includes rental housing fees. Now, if the council wants to back that out, then that would take and keep the position on change. That's gonna require some type of revenue. It would probably be a levy increase, and that's gonna be roughly 6 cents.
So if we wanted to not have a fee charged to the landlords, then we would have to increase approximately 6 cents in levy rate somewhere.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Are going. Every year. I think and I'll just reiterate some points I've said before. I think every city, you know, it's a fee-based inspection. You know, every city that has it, there is some type of fee. I think it's hard to say we're not gonna pass a fee, and frankly, I know after the council talked about it in some of the radio discussion, I got calls the next day from people, and I said, call your council member, because, you know, the city manager is the one that makes the decision. Really kind of critical of saying, wait a minute, I'm a residential property owner, why am I gonna pay for the inspection of a for-profit entity? That doesn't seem right and fair to me. You know, so I think it's a balancing act, the council, difficult decision to make in that regard.
2/3 of his salary will come from taxpayers.
Correct.
The 1/3 of it comes from the property landowners. So it's not like, the landowners or the rental housing owners are paying for the whole thing.
Yeah, just kind of similar to the way the building inspection department is, we charge the contractors a fee for inspection services, so that's where a portion of those funds come from.
And I think we certainly can look at a fee. One of the things I've heard from council is, you know, we want those reinspection fees to be higher than what staff had initially proposed, and we can look at that. What I think your re-inspection fees, I mean, it's not a penalty-based system, or at least I don't think it should be a penalty-based system. If we want to get into infractions, that's a whole different animal. I think you really need to have a nexus to whatever your cost is. There has to be a nexus to the fee you're charging. And so I don't think you can go out and say, okay, if you're having the inspection, it's going to cost you $400 because it only really costs $50 of time, travel, and whatnot to implement that. It's not going to cost $500. I don't think you can fund a program off re-inspection fees. That's my suggestion.
The only thing I caution on is on the inspection pieces, I don't wanna get to the point where somebody doesn't go through a checklist on their own thinking, well, Jay's gonna come and do it, we'll just let them check it all out and they'll tell us what we gotta fix and we'll fix it.
I agree with you on that.
And we are working on a checklist too, of things that will give the landlords and the property owners that they can do exactly what you're saying, like get prepared.
And
For the inspection.
we've held off bringing it back because I want to have this discussion with the budget. I mean, to me, we need to resolve this question. If there's a real thought of how you want to proceed with the fee structure. If you don't want to have a fee structure, that's going to change how the program goes with fees. So I guess we need some guidance on that. Then I think we're prepared to bring it back in the first meeting in February for further council review and discussion.
You said, what was the $28,000 figure you were just talking about? Was that for this?
That's what we're estimating rental housing fees will be collected.
That would go towards the salary of that individual, $28,000.
So I was just looking at,
I'm not understanding.
go ahead. I was just looking at this personnel services, the 238,000 minus 166,000, 72,000. Is that what you're looking at? Possibly,
Yeah.
roughly? Okay. So 72,000 divided by 4, or 3 is 24,000, so you're basically breaking even with the inspection fees.
Mhm.
Okay. That's what- yeah,
That was our goal, is to try to break even.
Right.
Well,
Well, to make sure that's the same path we're on. Breaks over.
I gotta reset the thermostat. It'll get cold in here.
All this obligation.
Are you coming back at 2:00 in the morning to do that too?
My friends in the police department have been doing that.
Jeez.
Okay,
Yeah, if there's
is
any.
that it for you, Greg?
Yeah.
So it doesn't even have some direction. Is that-
I would guess, we're looking for some guidance on
Yeah, that's what he-
Oh,
where
okay.
you wanna go on the rental housing fee.
How did you calculate the 28,000? Is that what the first time through would be for every available property, or what?
Good question. Certainly these numbers can change, so obviously if we change one number.
Well, my question is, because we're not planning on inspecting annually, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so is that doing every single property in the first year, and then the next year it's quite a bit lower, or? No.
So Eric was saying, what, 4 years possibly to get home?
Well, yeah, I don't know if it'd quite be that long, Laverne, but yeah, certainly to get through them and get back and re-inspect it, just get it off the ground. Take some time, certainly.
I think once it gets off the ground, it'll sustain itself a little better.
I would hope so.
Do you expect or anticipate any courtesy type inspections where landowner would possibly ask you to come up and, an inspector to come up and look at the property just to kind of give them a dry run?
You mean once their fee has been paid and that kind of thing? I would be glad to answer any questions you would have, certainly, and the checklist that we have, we're gonna make it as clear as we can. I mean, there's nothing hidden in there or anything like that. Pretty straightforward type of things we're looking for.
But I think you brought up a good point though, Mike, is, if somebody goes through that checklist and they take care of it themselves, and they come in and they miss something, now they're gonna get dinged on a re-inspection. So, you know, I don't know about the re-inspection charge like right away to just get people get them up to that level. And then after the second or third year, if they're still, and I just hate for somebody that goes through all that work to get it all done and they miss one thing and now they gotta get it re-inspected.
I think Mike said we, depending on what it was, we'd be reasonable.
I think, yeah, have some reasonable, yeah,
And work with them.
right.
And I think Mike said it best too, it's not gonna be a gotcha type thing.
No,
Particularly
that's
on the
right.
first
So we
round.
wanna make sure it's not.
We wanna definitely work with the public and the property owners to, to resolve things, that's the main goal.
Right,
But after, like I said, maybe the first round, then we, if there are flagrant violations where they're just not fixing it, then we have to
mhm.
put some teeth in it, so.
But I think you have to have the teeth in it
Right.
to be able, you can't just make the teeth up as we go along.
So part of this is trying to estimate, okay, looking at census numbers on how many rental houses are in Carroll and kind of breaking it down by number of units. 28,000, my best guess is if you're getting about 80% of the people to actually register initially, that would be $35 a year. It's an annual permit, and then $10, for each unit. Now you can do the annual permit or you can do the time of inspection fee. Obviously, the time of inspection is going to be triple that to make it kind of cash per se.
Well, in that case, I would certainly lean towards an annual fee myself.
And that's kind of, and I think maybe we inflicted pain on ourselves because initially I liked we're going to do a time of inspection fee because it, from a staff administrative, it made it a lot easier, but it made it a higher cost fee. And I think that's where a lot of landlords, well, wait a minute, you're going to charge how much? Where, no, a lot of cities, most cities do annual fees, even though they only inspect every third year, but then they're more in line with that $35 a year fee.
Sure. So what you really need from us is if we have any ideas other than what you had proposed in the budget for funding rental housing inspections as a fee structure to the landlords, you need us to.
I mean, if you don't want to if you don't want it as a fee structure and you want to pay for the levy, this is the time you need to let us know.
I will have a hard time subsidizing a for-profit business for this. And that's what we're doing if we
Right.
don't charge it. Because do we do that anywhere else in the city? Do we subsidize a for-profit business?
We do. We do a lot of tax abatement, TIF work. So yeah, we do. Do we subsidize on an ongoing basis? I would say we try not to. It's more one-time incentives to get something going. But yeah, there's assistance we do.
But this would be an ongoing thing all the time. And that's not to Vern's point, that's not happening to that degree, that it's.
Remember that sheet of paper I passed out at the end of that last meeting?
Those
How
are
much it
what I
cost? I don't know if you guys got that yet, I got some, but it's not that much money, is what we're asking for, especially if you have multiple units.
Right.
And then some of that, I got it here, some of that work was a little bit higher, was when it was $400 or $600 a month. Well, those people that are in those units, they're probably getting government help anyway. So the cost to that particular renter won't be that high.
On a month-to-month basis, it was not. It was just like a buck or two, I thought you had in there.
Well,
Depends on-
if you're a landlord and you had one unit that you charge $400 a month for, your inspection fee is gonna be not even 1%, 0.75%. Now, if you're an $800, it's 0.36%. Now, if you have a fourplex, you're not even 0.2% of your rental fee is for this inspection. I don't know, it's just not much money.
I think it's hard to justify putting the whole onus on all the taxpayers. That's where I have the problem.
I had some restrictions from our last meeting.
Yeah.
Well, just, the landlords have made very clear to us their beliefs and their desires are to not be charged anything for this program. I think it's important we keep that in mind. I'm not saying it sway us any one way or the other individually, but certainly they've made that very clear, and that they feel this is not a fair program for them. I do believe, and I have believed from the beginning, that this is a program the city of Carroll needs and deserves, not only to improve and maintain our housing stock, but also to draw in more workforce and make us a more viable community for the region.
There is something to be said for this inspection program actually enhancing the value of their properties.
Absolutely.
If it's passed an inspection, I would think a renter would be a little more likely to choose a property knowing that it's passed through an inspection, meaning that the value of their property could go up some. Not all, I realize some of it's controlled, but I just, it's an encouraging, it would be something that would encourage a renter. Certainly isn't going to discourage anyone from renting if they know that they're going into a property that the city protected.
Well, and some of the concerns they raise are for renters who can't afford to pay anymore.
I understand
I
that.
really appreciate your spreadsheet that you brought in that does highlight the, potential cost for the renters, not just the landlords, but the renters who are gonna have it pass through.
So as we work through the budget process, I'm hearing,
You're hearing crickets, so
yes,
silence is indicative of consent. We'll be working through this.
You're hearing both ways.
I'm hearing it both ways. What I would say is obviously, when we go through the budget process, we'll have 2 more budget meetings. If you want this changed, you have some time, but time is,
Mike, remind me, are you talking $35 per year per unit? Is that, I just remember, one of the speakers, Dave, I can't remember his last, Carroll,
Yeah.
saying, you shouldn't punish the many for the few. And I think that's so correct. I mean, a correct way to think about this. And I don't know, if somebody is not meeting the code or meeting, the checklist, they should be the ones paying to be re-inspected for, for reasonable things. So I get what Dave Carroll was saying, but you're saying everybody would just pay this fee per unit regardless of whether they need to be re-inspected or
no,
not?
there would be a fee associated with re-inspections.
There would,
Yes,
okay,
absolutely.
okay, so it's not an either or,
Yeah.
it could be a hybrid type thing.
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense, because I remember saying we need to incentivize people getting it done like right now, so they can move on with their inspections instead of constantly returning to the same.
Yeah.
Could you bring numbers like with this hybrid system to next time or whenever it works? 'Cause I do not remember the numbers
Yeah.
we talked
And I don't-
about,
Yeah. We'll-
That was
we'll
back in
have-
December, that was it.
Yeah, I can't remember
December
what,
13th
but
meeting.
some of the numbers were really high.
And I know, going back to an earlier comment I made, I know there was some like, just, whack and hard for that re-inspection fee. I think there still has to be a logical nexus to the cost of us doing that re-inspection.
Right,
Obviously, the first inspection, it's gonna take some time,
right,
but if you're going out there and you're saying, okay, there's a smoke detector missing
Yeah.
next to the bedroom, that's a 30-second inspection.
well, right.
And so, you can't charge $300 for a re-inspection, it's a
Or
fine,
even
not a.
charge anything at all, I mean, it would depend on where they were at in that
Exactly.
checklist.
Mhm.
Like some kind of sliding scale or something.
But I also say don't make it too complicated. Because
No,
I don't wanna have a formula that our inspector has to be out there trying to figure out, well, this is a $20 reinspection, not a $30, you know what I'm saying?
right. I think we're,
I'd rather see it a flat rate myself. I see
You
your
wanna-
sliding scale.
yeah,
I'd rather keep it simple.
What was the levy amount you were gonna have to increase?
It's about 5 to 6 cents per thousand to cover that 28.
So instead of 11.59, you'd be at 11.64.
You know, and it'd be an important thing to note if our friends from the press pick this up, that, you know, this is an important time. We're sitting here having budget meetings, working through the most important policy document we will for the year, and we have an empty room. So, not that I'm looking for a whole bunch of people to come and pound us anymore, because we've certainly heard from different bodies and different people, and we know how important these issues are to you. Be it the landlord or the tenants, we understand. But we will have 2 more meetings, and this would be an opportunity again for you to come see us and let us know that you're there. We know you are, but don't want you to think we missed your out. Come see us.
So we'll get the,
I have a quick
oh, go
question.
ahead,
Can
I'm
I-
sorry.
Can I go off that topic? Greg, I was just wondering, do you have specifics on the increase in the services and commodities from the 76 to the 13? It looks like it's under, professional fees. Does that tie back to this person, or?
Page 83.
Professional services.
Okay, where were you referring to?
Under your service and commodities, it looks like, you're requesting from 76 to 13, 7,600 to 13,000.
Yes, that is some startup costs for the position.
Yeah, we've included that in the budget,
Like,
and training expense.
Training, computer,
Yeah.
it's some startup for that.
It was in the current budget, and it got re-estimated to 76. Is that in anticipation of that money shifting to 21 then?
Yes.
And we backed out that salary too, we anticipated having it in, so we adjusted that appropriately too.
Right.
So then I'm guessing also the, up above that, the 2,400, up 3,000 is for this person as well in the, car allowance?
Yes, yeah.
anything else for Greg? So you got, bring back those, we'll just get those figures for the fee schedule that we had, at least from the 13th. Okay.
Right, we done, I've got a county association meeting tonight at station 7:30.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
thanks.
Greg. Brad, Gene, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, my budget cover sheet is on tab E, page 34, and my line items for the police general fund is page 80 under tab F. If you need to refer to that. Not a ton of change. The accomplishments from last year, we did replace our in-car and body camera system, added the squad car, which should be done this week or next. For a little longer than expected to get it here. And we're still working on the creation and participation in the countywide emergency response team. The initiatives for next year is mobile data terminal replacements. We have 3 still to be replaced. All that is really it's a computer in the car, but that's the primary communication, report writing, citation warning creation through in the vehicle from the officers. And we initially purchased those back in 2012, so they lasted 7 years. We've had a few failures. I have 3 left that we're replaced. We're starting to see things fail on those. And then we're gonna increase our nuisance abatements a little bit. The dollar amount went up a little bit to help with some cleanup costs. The revenue, for this next fiscal year, we're expecting $82,625. This current reestimate shows a little bit higher. We had some money come back in for training reimbursements. I think it was 15,000, roughly in that area, for officers who had left before their contract had expired. So that was the big difference there. Otherwise, very little change. On the expenses, our personnel expenses is 87.23% of our budget, and it'll be a little over $1.6 million for those. Services and commodities is 8.35%, and you see about a $21,000 increase there. That's our electric, gas. There's vehicle equipment, operating supplies for vehicles, those types of items.
Any
throughout
gas
there.
for the vehicles?
Gas for the vehicles is
Okay.
part of the services and commodities. That's under vehicle operating supplies. Or,
So did our gas bill go down any, since actually the prices aren't higher, but we also we have a hybrid vehicle?
That's the
Maybe
one that's
that
currently
number.
not on the road yet, so when we
Okay.
go into purchase for next year, we're hoping to get a couple months on that before we have to make a purchase.
Okay,
Ford, their delivery was majorly delayed. We didn't
Okay.
get the car till into December, and then Reesburg started outfitting it right after New Year, so it's all done. We're just waiting for Wayland, which is the lights company, to come and program the lighting for us. So they're supposed to be here hopefully soon, this week or next, and we'll get it on the road and start getting that one going. Our capital outlay is 4.42%, and what that includes is 2 vehicle replacement this year with trade-in. We have the $6,500 for our office equipment replacement, which was computer software repair, and that's the same as it has been in the past. The mobile data terminals is under police equipment replacement. That's estimated about $15,300, and we still are needing to replace 1 radio, and that $1,200 is our share. 901 covers a big chunk of this bill. I think we get a third of the bill comes from the city, so that's $1,200 to replace 1 radio, and then we'll be up and running full radios for that changeover. That should happen here. I believe it's August or September, looking to turn that system on.
That's all going to work with new systems coming in the future.
Correct, yep. And the fire department will be on board too. They are 100% covered through that bond, or whatever the county is doing to pay for that. I think it's through the levy, to pay for that update. So the fire will update with that. The ambulance is gonna update also. And we had already updated mostly through a grant. We have 1 officer who doesn't have a radio, so we're gonna transition them to a new radio. We haven't needed them at this point, because we're still running on the old tower, old system, but that'll be changing. I think that estimated August, September to be up and running 100%.
Nice.
We'll see those changes coming.
Chief, you're currently authorized local.
We're at full staff. I have 1 officer who's considering retirement this year. Unknown when, it's kind of depends on he's meeting with the retirement board, I think in March. They can usually come around once a year. He'll meet with them and figure out where he's at. And he's been with us for 27 years, so he'll be our possible one that'll be leaving this year. Unknown at this time. He's still unknown. He may stay for 3 years. He may leave next month. He doesn't know where he's at either, so we'll find out when he finds out. And we are at full staff. Our newest officer, Kennebec, is completed field training. He is on his own, doing really well. Let's see, our total budgets for the police operations is $1,857,328. It's a 4.45% increase from last year. In dollars, that's $79,164. One other thing that has come up that's not listed in here, and this is pretty preliminary, but DMAC has come to us. They are getting from their board in Des Moines a push to have armed officers on their campus. If you've been through DMAC, a full-time armed officer there would not last. So they came to us a while ago and discussed this about partnering with us in the school district to accomplish this. And then it had died away. There was some change in their administrative staffing in Des Moines, and now it's apparently coming back. We met with Joel Lundstrom last week and discussed it a little bit. I didn't take that the school was really interested in this from that meeting, but this may be something that comes up that they want to pursue, a school resource officer type position that could be funded unknown at this point. A third between the school, DMAC, and ourselves. It's really preliminary, so just kind of get it out there for you. Nothing in the budget showing this, but if it does come about, we'll bring it back and get you some more information. But like I said, it's pretty early. I don't know that we'd have a major need for it. Of course, it would be nice to have an officer in the school full time, but again, we're at the schools often, and our response time to the schools is pretty short. But I see maybe some requests to have them there, but like I said, pretty early at this point, and just kind of see what happens, what they decide, and what we really decide too, if it's worth it or not.
One note on that is we have a short window, but there is a open COPS grant from the Department of Justice right now. So that could fund the first year operation of the position. But that would be it, just a 1 year funding of it. So from a expense revenue side, that may be an opportunity to look at. But it's very preliminary, and I think we need more feedback from both the school district and DMAC before we'll take it any further.
So they had one officer patrolling all of those buildings. Is that,
I don't think there'd be a major patrol presence in the elementary schools. We just get very few calls there. More middle school and high school, and even at the high school level, their dean of students is an ex-officer, worked for Carroll, the county, and Manning, and he handles the majority of their problems up there. Now we do assist, of course, but we don't really know how this looks. Do we give the schools in DMAC half the time while school's in session, and in the summer we take the officer full time? There's a lot of planning, I think, still that needs to come with this. We just don't know how this is really made up, or what we do with it. And DMAC had even indicated that maybe they only need someone there for a few hours a week in the school, the community school district have the rest of the time, and then we would utilize the officer in the summer, but there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen, and really I think it's gonna come back on, is the school willing to support this or not? If we split it with DMAC 50-50, I don't see any benefit for us at that point. So it really depends on how the school comes with this.
Brad, did they talk about hours also? Because I know I used to teach some classes till 10 at night.
Joel did bring that up because they have classes, I think you call it Children in the Middle, I think it's for divorce,
Yeah.
the process of divorce, and they have those classes at night, which I believe would possibly be where they may have some issue. So, there could be different hours that the officer would have to work to. And then they would use them for football games, basketball games, any activities, so their hours could be changing every day or depending on the week, or don't know at this point.
Yeah, and another thing, I would want to know, because I remember going through training when I was at DMAC and the Alice and all of that stuff, and how much autonomy you would have, that your department would have. I think that would be really important.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you're thinking through this and not,
There's a lot,
aspects.
and he had, Joel knows it too, that only having 3 hallways there, having a full-time person there could either, one, lead to trouble, or your turnover rate would be so high you'd never be able to keep your training
Right.
adequate for the officer that's there, so this is
I think
probably
they
their best
They go stir
benefit.
crazy in that room,
Absolutely would.
yeah. There isn't enough to patrol.
And he knows that, and that was why, the thoughts were maybe a couple hours a week he would utilize them, and the rest of the time the schools would have them, or we would have them. Pretty early at this point.
I remember Joel at the meeting made a comment of they needed DMAC security down for a week. And they made it to day 2 and said, we're not coming back. And went back to Yankee. I mean, there just is
They're
not
bored.
enough.
They're
to-
bored.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's good that, we're being part of those conversations, because as the ever-changing world is happening, our school system
Absolutely.
is seeing and probably going to see future instances where we need somebody
Yeah,
there.
that's true. And we have a really good working partnership with both DMAC and the schools, both schools, Carroll and Kemper. So, they have my cell phone number. They have one of our sergeant's cell phone. Both a couple of our sergeants. So they get texts middle of the night or depending on whatever happens. So we give them quite a bit of access now. But the presence of having an officer on campus is there's a benefit to that too, even if it's just visibility. So that is the police operations portion of my budget. Any questions on any of that? Pretty generic. Our union is needed to go through the 23 fiscal year. Our union bargaining agreements, so we're still quite a few years out on that. And of course the personnel services is our highest percent all the time. It ranges between about 85 and 92% every year. Some of the other funds that that I have here too, on tab F, page 84 is the comm center, the communications, and we split that 50-50 with the county. We had our meeting a few weeks ago and that budget was approved at $242,634. Their main increase was just their salary, unknown health insurance increase. I put on here I have about 7% increase from last year for that. Page 85, also tab F, is disaster services. These are our weather sirens throughout town. No replacement needed at this point. The service commodity is just electrical fees and our maintenance that we have to do every year on them.
And if we can go back to
Yes.
communications really quick, just one note, during our meeting with the county, they did note that they are looking at next fiscal year increasing staff, or at least they would like to increase staff, so that could have a pretty big impact.
I think their goal was to possibly, how they brought it to us, was having 2 dispatchers working at all times to handle any calls that come in. So the police department has 2 officers on duty at all times. The sheriff's department does not. They are trying to increase their numbers. You may have seen in the radio this coming year. That still probably won't get them to two deputies on at all times, but that's where the comm center wants to potentially get to. I don't think they were planning on doing it all next year, but stepping to that direction to get 2 dispatchers on at all times.
But that would have a substantial, I mean, it wouldn't quite double it, but it'd be pretty close.
That's a big fee for personnel. That's you see there. That's almost 90, probably 98% of their budget is personnel costs.
Is that because of building the new jail?
No,
Or might
it's
be
just-
naive to ask that,
I
I'm
mean,
just
what they
curious.
argue is that their call volume has nothing to do with the jail, because it's a comm center, not the jail. But they're seeing an increased call service. But then it's also the issue of, if you get 3 911 calls in at the same time and you have 1 dispatcher, it's really difficult. Now, 911, if 10 people called in right now, they're gonna start rolling over to other counties, eventually they'll roll over to the state, so there is some redundancy in that, but you don't get the same level of, hey, I'm in Manning, I just got in a car accident on 3rd Street, they're not gonna know where the heck that is. So you get a better level of service, obviously, when it's locally handled call. The other issue is if you have a dispatcher that just needs to take a break, what makes it difficult to take that break. And third, if you have an incident, a medical emergency with the dispatcher, you may not know when that happened. And so, I mean, there's some issues. I mean, I understand the need for redundancy. You also have the issue of 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't have a lot of call volume anyhow. And so, what's the balancing act there?
I think we're talking with Jason, they're looking at their hours where they're noticing that they're really busy, so, and then hours there where, like maybe from 1 to 4 in the morning, it's dead quiet, they just need 1 person. So they'll adjust the hours so that you're not having 2 on 24/7.
So he's identifying peak times and
Right.
servicing it.
If I understand, you probably know this, they do have some times that they have some overlap.
There is some overlap now. Weekends, Friday, Saturday nights. I know there's overlap from 4 p.m. to midnight, and during the week there's also some overlap, but it's a few hours here and there. There's not 2 people down there 24 hours a day. You're right, 3 in the morning when we have 2 people working. There's nobody out in Manning, no one out in Coon Rapids. There's a deputy someplace. That's it. So there might not be a ton of calls. Now, of course, if a weather emergency happens or a major car accident or a fire, that dispatcher is more than likely overwhelmed. And we've even had officers go sit down there when it's some major emergency that's happening not in our town and at least answer phones because they'll ring for everything.
You had mentioned the comm center, the wages in that, or the structure cost is 50-50 between the city and the county.
It still is correct.
Did it used to be that way all the time?
I believe it's been that way since the comm center, commission was put in place. I couldn't even tell you when that was.
Well, that was, I think, way back in the 90s.
73, I believe.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Yeah.
But it's been that way, we've talked about it, and we brought up at every budget meeting. Manning pays 0, Breda pays 0, Glidden pays 0. City of Carroll is the only one that pays at this point.
And then we pay twice, cause we pay county
Right,
and
we talked
city
about
taxes.
that last time, and that never got anywhere
Yeah.
with that.
That's correct. I have more to say, I probably shouldn't.
It is a,
Yeah.
That's what they say.
It
We're
is,
70% of the calls.
Or
We-
70%.
we're the highest percentage of the calls. We probably are. We're the most busy town in our county. Our daytime population is more than our nighttime population, so we are the majority of the calls. But Manning is also a lot of the calls and probably should pay a fair share too.
you know, there is a model that was put together by Iowa State Extension on fire calls, because fire service had kind of the same debate statewide for a number of years. And I think it really is a good model that I've advocated that we should look at for the comm center. You know, we certainly should pay our fair share in the amount of service that we take or utilize. You know, we should pay a higher proportion. Don't disagree with that. But there's also the question of availability. Just the call center being there is available for a rural resident in Carroll County just as much as it is for City of Carroll or Manning or Breda. And so I really think that should be looked at. And that system really is based on number of calls, population, and values. And so it kind of proportions and I think makes it a fair system. But, you know, since the comm center's been around, we have added Manning, we've added Coon Rapids, and there's been no change in the fee structure or who's paying into it.
When did we get something done on this? I mean, we had Jason come and talk to us, he gave us all the data, did his PowerPoint.
There's kind of two issues. We have 2 votes, they have 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
I mean, the only thing the city could do, I mean, versus saying we want to change, I mean, it's the nuclear option is to pull out the 2080. And then the county's gonna have to look at how they structure it. Now, there's some impacts to the city because today the comm center does all of our dispatching. They take all of our non-emergency calls, you know, so we don't have any staff sitting in the police department from 5 at night to 8 in the morning and no time on the weekend. And so we would probably have to have staff, there's staffing costs for that.
Be some equipment cost also, you'd probably have to get something set up. I don't think we would be able to get a PSAP, which is the 911 answering system that the state provides, so we wouldn't have to worry about that expense. But I have a feeling the county would take the initial, here's 911, and pass it on to someone else. Once they find out it's in the city of Carroll, then someone else gets it, so you've added that delay.
This is a really nice discussion and all, but I have 0 interest personally in exploring the nuclear option there. I don't know if anybody else in the room does, but I certainly have no interest in going down.
It's one of those things that we just have to look at a little bit more, and I think once the fees start going up, I think then we need to take a harder look at it. Right now, it's kind of a wash.
I know we can all
So-
work together to come to a good solution for that. It sounds like you're already doing
think-
some good work in the background, guys, so.
I think Gerald was on them with prior mayors, and Mike got in on it. Mike, I think he came in with 2 tridents. Gerald come in with 1, and Mike took it up just as good. And it's just, it's the point being, we get 2 votes. They got 3.
So
You
I
can't-
hypothetically think, or stuck, I'm not here. So, okay, let's say we say we're gonna approve the line item at 75% of what's in here.
Well, we have a 2080 agreement that says we have, I mean, we'd be required, we'd have to provide the notice by December 31st.
Yeah.
So we're contractually required to pay half the cost.
So that doesn't mean we can't have this conversation.
So it's
in April, May, June and say, this is what we're gonna do.
Now, I agree with you. I am absolutely, don't take my comments saying, I don't think we should do the nuclear option. I'm just saying, we have 2 votes. They have 3. You know, the county has a position, and frankly, unfortunately, they don't have to listen to us. Now, I do think, and I brought it up tonight on the staffing question, I really brought it up because if next year this goes up by 100,000, I've looked at some rough numbers of just staffing a dispatcher down in PD overnight. Right now, it's a break-even proposition. You know, you add $100,000 of cost. Now we're really talking, is this where we want to continue to be?
How many dispatchers is this paying for? How many comm center employees are there, do you know?
This is probably gonna be a rough estimate. I believe there's 6 full-time dispatchers, and they have 2 part-time.
So they'd be looking at adding how many, do you know?
They don't.
You know,
I think initially it was just 1 for next year.
One to start.
The next year, possibly another 1.
do you know if there's a high expense for training, or is it
There
pretty
is,
basic?
there is some training expense. They have to be certified through the academy. I believe it's either 40 or 80 hour class, plus some on the radio training that's required too. So it's not like law enforcement where academy cost is $10,000. Everything else,
Maybe 1,000 or 2.
probably somewhere in that range. And then the training cost of having the deputy or a dispatcher on duty with another dispatcher training for a few weeks, I would imagine. But the cost is not nearly as much as it would be to hire a deputy or an officer.
I think we've got some pretty veteran folks working in that center who do a very good job.
They do, yeah. A lot of them have come from other centers, Greene County, Crawford County, only because our pay is higher than theirs is. We've kind of cannibalized from them, but the nice thing is they brought their skills with them too. So.
Yeah, I know Mike and I have those, continue to talk about that, so. Anything else for Brad?
Yeah, if we go from communications, disaster service, talked about that. Police forfeiture, no change there. There's nothing expected for purchasing out of that. That's out of the normal. That money is all forfeiture money, like it says, through the courts type of stuff. Crime prevention, let's see here, expenditures go down. This last year we had used some of the money for this current budget year for vehicle equipment, and then to get the countywide emergency response team in place too. We had some money set aside for training equipment on that. So that'll all go away. So we're back to total expense of $7,000, which is what it has been for many years in the past, or very similar to what it has been. Our K-9 fund is currently at 0. That was all donation money. We spent the last of it this year, and we've rolled the training expense into our general budget for the police operations.
I hate to think of our officer there as, what's the lifespan of the
We're-
canine?
We're hoping 10 to 12 years of working time. We got the dog when he was about between 8 and 10 months, and then we had about a month of training in Sheraton, and then he's been here since October of 17 is when we got possession of the dog. So we're still hoping to get 10 more years out of the dog if possible. And that was the benefit of going to a clone dog compared to a dog that was bred, because the dog was at 8 months ready to go. Where if it's a dog that's bred, there's 2 to 3 years of training for whatever reason. So that was the benefit of having that. So we're still hoping 10 more years out of the dog is the goal. Of course, any injury or illness that may happen could play into that effect too.
Do you have a contingency plan should some illness, injury come up or anything like
The
that?
dog does have insurance on him, so there's that. But if I could cover full replacement, probably not. So at that point, no plan.
Were you talking like health insurance on the dog?
Kind of, yeah. It's similar to like a livestock insurance.
Yeah, I know you can get health insurance for your,
That's covered through our ICAP.
okay. Well,
He's expensive,
Consider
so
an
you gotta have,
officer.
yeah, it's just like a vehicle, you gotta have some
Yeah.
insurance.
Dental.
He's got 4 feet. That's where you're coming from.
yeah.
The podiatrist is counting feet.
Anything else on the summary page? Our staffing levels are still at the same, and we went over the capital request, so I can answer any questions you may have on any line items if there's any changes there that you're interested in learning more about.
Anything else for Brad? Otherwise, I'll let, Rachel, you wanna go and then we'll be done,
Okay,
okay?
alright, thank you. If you turn to page 43 of tab E, you'll see the department summary for the library. Accomplishments from this past year just included some different statistics on circulation, attendance, and door count for the library. The circulation has, the statistics have been slightly down from the last fiscal year since we've moved to our temporary location. But since we've been there over a year, we've seen a increase in our door count, and hopefully when we move back, we'll see an even bigger increase. One thing I did not include in here that I thought about later is we did make a change in this past fiscal year, in our automation system or card catalog online. It's a much user-friendly service for our patrons, and it's much better usability for staff as well. Some 2021 initiatives, we're just gonna be moved in the new library, hopefully. And we're gonna offer some new library services and programs, and we're gonna plan to update some computers and maintain our rotation of updating technology. If you turn to tab I, page 100, that has a more detailed report of the line items for the library if you'd like to see that. You'll see with revenue, we're projected to bring in the same amount from fiscal 2020 to fiscal 2021. We get different revenue from the state. They help reimburse us for different costs for like interlibrary loan and our open access program. We also get funding from the county for our county residents. We get funding from different townships like Breda, Arcadia that don't have a library. They pay for library services through us. And we get miscellaneous revenues like fines and fees from our patrons as well. Under expenses, for the re-estimates, there's not too much change other than I did add some funding into the capital outlay that we took out of services and commodities and put it in capital outlay for some new copiers that we needed. For fiscal 2021, you'll see an increase in the services and commodities under, let's see, the miscellaneous contract work. That's just to accommodate for cleaning services. That was our main concern going into this budget year, is what direction we're going to go. So we budgeted about $2,000 a month for cleaning services for that.
You know, let me interject because I'm not sure if council's fully aware, but we've been getting cleaning services through New Hope. That original arrangement's actually ended December 31st. We're now on a 3-month extension with them, so we did bring that contract to council. After the first year, looking at some of the changes that occurred already with New Hope, we kind of decided as staff that really we're not finding the current arrangement to meet our needs. So we have put out an RFP now for cleaning services. So, you know, certainly please advertise that out, but there will be additional costs, and so I know that impacted the police department, the library, city hall, and we had a really good arrangement with New Hope, and unfortunately that just can't continue.
Continuing, just under capital outlay, that just accounts for the computer updates that I had spoken about before. We have about 3 computers that have reached the 5-year life expectancy, so we'll just need to replace those. Personnel, we'll still keep the same amount of personnel as from 2020 to 2021. Is there any questions about anything I can answer?
server at the library?
Yes, we do. Yes, and we plan to replace that, moving back to the remodeled location. We have that budgeted in this fiscal year, and I believe I have that projected to come out of our trust fund.
That wasn't part of the building budget? No, okay.
I guess I have to ask what the state funded books, since it's never been used, no expense over 5 years, page 100 toward the bottom. What is that? State funded books, it's zero all across, all the way across. Why is there even a line?
I'm not sure. Ever since I've been here, it hasn't been funded. I'm sure at one point it was we work with the State Library of Iowa. There was probably a program through them that we had this line item, I'm guessing. I'm not entirely sure. Laura's shaking her head too.
Can you just take it off there for simplicity?
Yeah, we can do that.
The next year we'll end it back on.
This probably sounds, I had another question, Rachel, this probably sounds silly because I don't know a ton about libraries, but looking at your revenues,
Yeah.
I mean, do we get what we get based on the size of our town, the size of our library, the number of books we have? Are there other places that, I
Okay.
mean, you've worked with a library, so
Right.
our library's bigger than us getting more from other places. Is there other places we can look?
Are you talking about like the state
The
appropriation?
revenues, yeah.
The revenues?
Yeah.
I don't believe there's really any other places to get revenue from. The state appropriation and specifically is for interlibrary loan books. So we get reimbursed on interlibrary loans we send out. So whatever the cost for the postage is, we get reimbursed for that. Plus open access, which is basically you can get a library card anywhere you want in Iowa, and then like say I go to Cedar Rapids and get or check out a book, I can return it here to the Carroll Library and they'll send it back. So we get reimbursed for that postage as well. So we have a few regulars that go to Ames and they'll return all their books to us and we'll send them back. Another thing with that change too is the state library has also started a different delivery service. So we might see we're seeing a decrease in like book mail. So it might not have so much go through the postage system anymore. We'll be using this delivery service through the state now. So we're trying that out. Still working out some kinks with that, but yeah. But yeah, and then we have 7 contracting cities within the county too that they pay for library services as well. So you could see an increase there potentially too. But we charge the minimum that state code requires for that with those contracting cities. So
Do you have to have a different library card than the Carroll library card to go to a different
yeah, so I have
state one, you're saying?
I have a lot of different library cards. So you just go to like Cedar Rapids and they'll just ask for your photo ID and they'll put you in there that you're from Carroll, and then I have a separate card for that. So they'll require a different library card for that. So yeah, and we'll report that to people. We'll report that to the state how many other people from other towns like Des Moines or wherever come to Carroll and check out from us. Mm-hmm. Any
Do
other?
some of those other libraries charge for those cards?
No, it's through the whole state,
Just
so
a
it's a free
Free card.
service that we offer. Not other states do that. They're very specific about where you live and where you get your library card.
Anything else for Rachel? So we got Jack and Randy left and. Suppose
We can go tonight.
The other thing we'll have at the next workshop is we'll have outside groups.
Yeah.
So that takes some time.
might take about 45 minutes.
you'll have CADC, the Chamber for the Tourism Promotion Funding, and Airport Commission. We're scheduled to be here right at the beginning of the meeting at 5:15.
5:15. So we went 5:15 to about 8. We should be done by 8, I would think, then, with everybody.
Got our 2 big hitters coming up, Randy and Jack.
And then how many questions you have.
Right, true. I mean, yeah. Okay. Unless really, somebody's really diehard and wants to go through more. Go home and take it and digest. Alright. If there's nothing else for Rachel, Brad, and Greg's going, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and vote.
Steven?
Yes.
Haley?
Yes.
Dirks?
Yes.
Fletcher?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Biggs?
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.